Canadians are 3 times more likely to prefer someone other than Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to lead the Liberals into the next election. That's according to new numbers from Nanos Research in a survey conducted for CTV News. Take a look at this. When Canadians were asked who they'd like to lead the party, 56% of respondents surveyed between May 31st and June 2nd, they said that they'd prefer the Liberals to have someone other than Justin Trudeau at the helm. Now, in 2022, that number was 51%. Meanwhile, only 17% of respondents said they'd like to see Trudeau lead the Liberals into the next election. In 2022, that number was at 25%. Okay, let's bring back the front bench to discuss this one. Christy Clark, Tom Mulcair, and Christy Kirkup. Christy Kirkup, we'll start with you. What do you think, if anything, this changes in the Prime Minister's inner circle right now?
I don't really think it changes anything because I think we know that a lot of Canadians at this point in time, and frankly over the last number of months, they don't really like Justin Trudeau anymore. And he has been asked about this countless times. One of my colleagues, Laura Stone, recently asked him about this at a press conference in Toronto where she essentially said, you know, in a kind way, no one seems to really like you anymore. Why don't you move on? And at the end of the day, I think that Justin Trudeau is making the political calculation that he sees where he wants to take the country in a very, very different way than Pierre Poilievre. He is a formidable campaigner, and I think he is waiting. It's clear he's waiting for a chance to go out and to try and make that pitch to Canadians again. I think there's a few things, though, coming up. For example, the by-election in Toronto, St. Paul's. There's been some writing about this recently, that if the Liberals were to lose that by-election, that perhaps there would be people within the Liberal camp that might actually start to sharpen their knives and to go after the Prime Minister and to try and push him out of the leadership role. But I think it's clear Justin Trudeau is dug in, and he's going to put his political life on the line. And at least it appears right now that he's not going anywhere, at least anytime soon.
Tom, pick up on that by-election, but also adding to that, you've been talking about that proverbial walk in the snow for a little while now. So do you think this turns into a stroll along the beach, a walk in the leaves in the autumn, or does it really sort of hinge on Toronto, St. Paul?
Tofino, no doubt. Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about by-elections because when I took a key Liberal riding for the NDP in Montreal, that was the beginning of something big, you know, a big change in Quebec politics. By-elections are incredible moments where the electorate can send a message because it doesn't really cost that much. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on St. Paul for sure when that by-election occurs. I do think that Mr. Trudeau is keeping his options open. He knows the basic rule, and this has been proven over the past century in elected politics. You can never give an indication that you're leaving because otherwise you just become a lame duck. And so I think that Mr. Trudeau understands that. The other thing is, too, I mean, it's very personal to him, but he's looking, you know, to set as long a period as he can and have that little plaque under his official portrait say something like Prime Minister of Canada 2015-2025. That would look good. So if he were to stumble into the fall session, say that he's spoken with the party and asked them to hold a leadership race in January 2025, all of a sudden he's got that. I can't see that in his heart of hearts he actually thinks he can win this election. He knows that there are big issues on the table, but I'll go to a massive Leger poll that was just done here in Quebec that shows the ascension of Poilievre. People are nervous about him, especially women voters, very nervous about him. Look at the Quebec City numbers. Quebec City is the bellwether. Why? Because it's a big metropolitan area, but it's not Montreal, where the Allo and Anglo populations tend massively to vote for the Liberals. And it's not the countryside, which, you know, can have its own way of doing things. Social media was invented in Quebec, but it was long before anybody had a handheld computer. It's simply people talking to themselves. And there will be a massive wave in Quebec if there is a sense that Poilievre is about to form a majority government. Quebecers are going to say, we've got to be at that table. And so the most nervous party right now is the Bloc Québécois, because even though Poilievre has raised himself to a level where he is neck and neck with the Liberals, it's the Bloc that's the most nervous, even though they show themselves to be several points ahead, because that is fragile. That's the Bloc vote that Jack Layton and I took down in Quebec. We just made it disappear. It's a parking lot, the Bloc vote. Yeah, okay, we don't know who to vote for this time. We'll send a couple of dozen bloquists to Ottawa to complain about everything. But now, if it becomes a question of, are we going to be at that table or not, I can guarantee you, Quebecers' sense of survival, which has been there for well over 400 years, is going to be, we have to have some people there. And that could move tons of votes in favor of Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives.
Christy Clark, I want to head west a little bit with you from Quebec. Of all the provinces where people say they want him to stay, BC has the largest proportion at 22.8%. Any shock in that?
Not really. I think, he has, it's no doubt there are a lot of people who don't like him in Western Canada. I mean, and British Columbia and Alberta are, it's very dramatic in Alberta. But I think in BC, there is a lot of people who really are very, very concerned about environmental issues and climate change. And he has been absolutely, pristine on those issues. I don't think he's done a good job of it, frankly. I mean, but he talks about it all the time. He's made it a big central issue and a big, cleavage between him and the Conservatives. So I think that Pierre Poilievre is collecting a ton of votes in British Columbia. There's no doubt about it. But I'm not surprised to learn that, Justin Trudeau has some more stickiness out on the West Coast, as people call it, the left coast, than anywhere else in the country. And, he really does govern like a New Democrat. I mean, not a Tom Mulcair New Democrat, more like a Jagmeet Singh New Democrat, because we all remember that Tom Mulcair promised to balance the budget. Boy, those were the days.
Quaint idea.
They don't call it the left coast for nothing. And I think that Justin Trudeau he's going to be banking on British Columbia to deliver him a big enough plurality. And I keep reminding everybody when we watch this, everybody watches this segment, that he won it last time with the smallest plurality in Canadian history. And he jammed together a governing coalition with the New Democrats. And it's not impossible that he would do that again with a bunch of votes from those really, really narrow swing ridings in the suburbs of Vancouver and the suburbs of Toronto. So that's what he's banking on. And, do I think he's going to stick it out? I actually think, and Tom's right, he's got to make his own decision about this. I think he's going to go in 2025. He's never lost anything. He has never lost a by-election, a leadership, an election, nothing. And he thinks that he is the best performer on the campaign trail of any of his potential opponents. I think he thinks he can win it. And he doesn't want to be remembered as a guy who chickened out before the time came.
Yeah, and to echo what Christy said, there is no New Democrat like a Tom Mulcair New Democrat. I think we can all agree on that one. Christy Kirkup, ending with you here. The proportion, I think, that was interesting that I saw in this as well, the demographics of those who thought that they'd like to see him stay, highest amongst the 55-plus crowd.
Yeah, I think, there's a certain vintage that do have maybe a bit of an emotional connection to Justin Trudeau. We've seen that over the years. Perhaps there is an element of that remains. I will say just about, Justin Trudeau and his personality, that he loves being the underdog. Yeah. He loves it. And we saw that with the Patrick Brazeau famous fight boxing match. And so personality-wise, at this juncture in time, if he's dug in, I think he feels like he's committed and he wants to take Pierre Poilievre to the boxing ring in 2025.
And we will see if the gloves do come off indeed. We have to ring the bell on this one, though, because I'm going to keep on with the sports analogies because I can. Christy Clark, Tom Mulcair, Christy Kirkup, thank you all so much for joining us.